So this video is going to be much different than my previous ones, but it kind of shows you the mindset that I have, the mentality I have. And I've noticed something in now, in the present day, than I did even back then, is that it's all about who you are that can do this. So, for those who don't know, some of you might. I don't think there's anyone right now that knows this, who watches my videos. But if you do, then you know what I'm talking about. I used to be bad. And I don't mean bad as in horrible, terrible, absolutely worse at credit cards than the average person. No, I mean bad as in badass with the credit cards. Like, there would be games we would have for credit cards. Like, you go online and you learn how credit cards work, get the best credit cards, or you just want one for clout, status, and all that. That's who I was. I could just walk into Best Buy and get a credit card right then and there. That's what I'm talking about. So I always had money on me. I've always been that way. Ever since before my mom passed away, I just had to know how to get money, you know. I've always had money. Even if it was just a little bit. I've always had to have money. So it just kind of built up from there. So I'm not going to get into nitty gritty with all this. But like I said, when COVID happened, I was in Ukraine. Well, before COVID happened, I was in 2019, as some of you guys know, is that I was homeless for a while. I couldn't afford the rent of staying in Houston. It's about $2,000 a month, and I could no longer afford it, so I went homeless. But I come back to live with my parents again. Sorry, it's windy outside if you can hear that. So I went back to live with my parents and go back to college. And I was planning on going to university that year, but things didn't work out like I thought they would. So that whole thing, the whole money situation over there didn't work out. So I couldn't go to university, and I decided to go back to college. 2-year college, community college, and rebuild stuff again. And so about 3 months from that, I was able to build up my empire, and it really was a credit card empire. I mean, I was going back into stocks and all of that again, and getting credit cards. I was going really heavy on the credit cards, and I would get, like, I had to apply for a credit card to get a $5,000 limit, and then I would get another one, and this one I had was from TD Ameritrade, and it was tied to my stock account. And my stock account, I was doing about maybe $100,000, $200,000 worth of trades each year at that time. And at the peak, I was doing $700,000 worth of trades in my last year. That's almost $1 million worth of trades. So I was on the up and up. Through my TD account, I was able to get, I think it was either a $3,000 credit limit or a $5,000 credit limit. And in about 3 months of that, they gave me the highest credit limit. I didn't even think this was possible. But they gave me a limit of $15,000 within 3 months. So yeah, I had like I had $20,000 where I actually was. I had $20,000 worth of credit limits that I had, and then I had like $40,000 in cash. So I had the money. I was doing doing it all. I wasn't really good at trading stocks. I mean, I made money here and there, but that was better than losing money. Of course, at COVID times, I was getting into options, and there was one day I lost $3,000 in a day. I was bummed about that. It was on Chevron, of course. Um, this was during COVID, and I had all this money that I was going to use for Ukraine. But COVID happened, and I was pretty much spending money to get out of the restrictions of COVID. So I couldn't go to Starbucks anymore where I lived. So I went to Idaho. It was like the end of the week, like the end of the week that I've been there, that they started having those restrictions too. So I couldn't go to Idaho. Couldn't go to Starbucks. And the bad thing about me doing stocks is this: I like to walk all day long, so I don't stay at a desk the entire time, and it's just not something I do. But I had the software for it. I wrote my own software. Um, I had everything. A lot of that for options I created when I was in Ukraine. So I had that. Um, I just really had an empire going on. And COVID really screwed me up though. And then after I came back from Ukraine, I just, I had, the cards I had was like, I had a Capital One, Chase Freedom. I actually had two Capital Ones. I had that TD Ameritrade card. I had the Apple card. I love the Apple card. Uh, there was a black American Express card. I didn't get that, but they gotta send that to you. Like I don't think you apply for that. They actually gotta send that one to you. I never could get that one, but I had the Apple card. That was the highlight, and the TD, of course. I liked all my cards. I had software that did cash advances, payday loans. I had it all in front of me that calculated the interest rates and all that. Um, Never went anywhere because of COVID, but it was there. The first cash advance I did, which wasn't related to that, to any stocks or anything, it was in Ukraine. But yeah, that was the thing. So I was really big in the credit card game. Um, and when 2022, I was just depressed. I did not. Things got worse. I couldn't afford things. Then the Ukraine war started. It just felt really bad. It was during the winter, and I just defaulted on everything. And that was pretty much the end of my credit cards and stock trading. Something just came to me. I'm not going to explain everything that happened, but it was during the time where I was in that mental state where I just couldn't do anything. And I talk about that in previous episodes, previous videos, and I was just like, I'm done with stock trading. So that final year was I made $700,000 worth of trades, and I didn't do it again. And I didn't get credit cards again until after the house fire. I didn't really have much cards, and without ID, you can't go to like Best Buy or Target and get new cards. I'm sure you probably could online if I really wanted to do that, but you didn't have money, you didn't have clothes. All my stuff burned up, except a few things in a suitcase. But my laptop, iPad, all that was burned up in the fire. So I, I had to do what I could to get credit cards. And interestingly enough, I went to Merrick. They were the first runs where I got a new credit card. And you could do it through Credit Karma. So you don't always need ID. And if you're a previous customer of credit, you can get one without ID. For example, Capital One. Capital One, I believe I had two of those cards. But maybe it was only one. But it was that $5,000 limit I defaulted on. But I applied for it. And they're very hard to get. Capital One cards are extremely difficult to get. Going to your bank would be easier. I don't got a bank card. I haven't tried to get one. But Capital One, they gave me not just one, but two of them. I got one of them, I think, in 1 year. And then I think the 2005 last year, I got, maybe it was the end of 2024. But yeah, I was able to get those cards back. And yeah, and just before I left for DC, they gave me $1,000 credit increase on both of those cards. I wasn't expecting that. I said Capital One, their cards are hard to get. I don't know if they've done something, but they used to be difficult, even with good credit score. I pretty much had I really didn't really have much credit, but I built that Merrick up so I could build credit back. So that's what I used. So I'm not quite there yet. Why I bring this up is, well, let's talk about the stock thing. I think I'll make the other video after this one. So the reason I wanted to bring this up was I really liked the credit card game. I didn't really like the stock market so much, but I liked how the money moved. I like seeing how money moved. And that's how I can understand things with the governments and seeing in between the lines outside the fine print, where I could actually see where money would flow to and what it meant. Because there are things in credit cards and loans that are not in the fine print. And I'll talk about that in the next video. But another thing I really liked doing, and I was interested in doing, but I couldn't really do it, again, COVID. That's what my excuse is, I'm sticking to it, is that you could actually use arbitrage. That meant that you could, let's take this for example. So let's say you have a $3,000 credit card and you go out and buy a laptop over there at Best Buy. But you need an Apple laptop because they're high liquidity and high value. They're high ticket items. So you would use that. People use gold, people use silver. But if you're day trading and all that, I like doing day trades sometimes. I could even day trade on accounts that did not allow day trading. Like their platforms, it was restricted. You couldn't do day trades. But I knew how everything moved and how money worked and how it flowed, where I could make money all the time doing that. Even if the platform itself could not do day trades, I could actually trade the next day and still make money. So, like I was saying, buy a laptop, buy an Apple laptop, give it to a pawn shop. You could get the money pretty quick. You know, it's not about the money it's not about how much money you make on it and the resale value. It's about how much money you can get to put into something else. For arbitrage, you're taking one thing, taking the money and use it for something else, so you can get quickly into a trade. You can also do that long term, but that happens a lot with day trading. Sometimes it can happen, for option trades as well for long term periods, but a lot of times it happens for day trades. Especially places like Houston, where I might not need ChatGPT for this, but places like Houston, like River Oaks, you could get. Houston doesn't see laptops like the average person does. Like when you buy something expensive, they see it as a consumable. I mean, they throw away laptops, they throw away iPhones. to them it's crap. To a lot of people, I mean, it's status too, but you could just get one pretty easily. I mean, if you see TikTok and people buy all these new phones, it's like that. Every phone, a new phone every month. There are people like that. But also, if they had a lot of money and they want to put a lot of money into a trade, they wouldn't use laptops because that's about $1,000 to $2,000. But if you were doing something big like $10,000, $8, $10, $15,000, and you wanted to get in a trade quick, what you would do is you would buy a Rolex and then you give it to a pawn shop, and that's how you can get a cheaper price on a Rolex for any consumer. And of course, you got to make sure they have the boxes and all that, the certificates of authenticity. But that's something that they would do, is that they would take these big high dollar items and just use that for day trading. And this is more of a city thing. I'm not talking about like go to your local pawn shop in like nowhere. I'm talking about big city stuff. In River Oaks, they do gas trading, and Chevron is right down the street in downtown. It's like 2 miles, maybe not even that, from River Oaks. But that's the rent over there is about $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Mortgage payments. That's a mortgage payment. Because of high liquidity. It's its own mentality and ecosystem. Oops, don't mean to adjust that. Gotta fix that. Hang on. Okay, that. I like to get it exactly perfect. I'm adjusting the window. There. Okay. I said, if someone were day trading, do people sometimes trade Rolex and Apple laptops because of high liquidity in cities like Houston? What is up with this? Is this ads now? Yes, but not in the way you're imagining. This is form of trading with items like Rolex and high-end electronics, but it's very different. Day trading stocks. It misunderstood me. It's not trading stocks. You're trading it for the liquidity and the money for a correct trade that you couldn't get anywhere else. Some people even preserve asset value in like high dollar items like this, and then if there's a trade they want to get into, it's not even a desperate attempt. They just get rid of it, take the money, don't even care if they lose a few $1,000s on it, go in a trade, make all that money back. You got your money. It does happen. In cities like Houston, there's a very active secondary market for luxury watches. You can literally walk in places like watch buyers and get an appraisal, sell same day, sometimes get paid instantly. That creates liquidity, which is why people flip them. And yes, people do treat them like assets. Certain Rolex models can resell for more than retail due to scarcity. At peak times, people bought and flipped watches for large premiums. Yeah, it's the premium. That's the word I was looking for. They were trying to get into the premium market. Options trading. Even futures markets, where you really need that high value Rolex type thing. a laptop wouldn't be able to give you that. And who's gonna buy the liquidity of a $12,000 Mac Pro isn't gonna give you that same kind of, you get over Rolex for that. Not everyone is gonna buy a $12,000 Mac Pro at a pawn shop. Um, Short-term arbitrage, there's that word, flipping, not true day trading. Um, yeah, this is talking about them actually trading. I'm talking about it getting for the cash market. You're trading it for you're trading it for the uh, you know, liquidity for something higher liquidity, arbitrage, which is you get the cash, which is you want that cash. It's all about that cash. No matter how much money as long as you got enough cash, without thinking about how much it costs, if you can make that money back off the cash you get, that's what they care about. So they're not trying to make a profit on these watches and the laptops. They're just trying to get that cash. They still don't have a way to define. They don't have a dictionary. What does arbitrage mean? Arbitrage is the near risk-free practice of buying an asset in one market and simultaneously selling it in another at a higher price to profit from price inefficiencies. So if you take a laptop, you buy a laptop in one market, you buy the laptop, and then you simultaneously sell it in another, which is the pawn shop. Well, you're using the pawn shop as a middleman, but you would sell it. You're essentially selling it in the form of cash in another, which is a stock market, at a higher price to profit from the price inefficiencies. So you try to make your money off that and make more money than buying that asset on its own. So the laptops and Rolexes become the tool that leverages in the market. So you know what I'm saying. It acts as a market stabilizer, bridging price gaps for securities, currencies, or commodities. Which a laptop is a commodity. Hang on, guys. I don't want to answer that right now. My phone's ringing. Profit optimization, market harmonization, and value equalization. That's what happens in a free market. So it says triangular currency arbitrage. It's sort of like that. Converting USD to Euro, then Euro to I don't know what that is, GPB, and finally GPB back to USD, taking advantage of a mispricing and exchange rates between the three currencies. So that's how you make your money. That's arbitrage. Using high-speed technology to exploit momentary price differences across different exchanges before they update. I was never into this. I wanted to get into it, but there are people who are big into that. So yeah. You can make your money back and get the stuff from pawn shop the same day. I don't know, maybe pawn shops have rules. I know that after 30 days, then they got to put it on the shelf and make money on it. But yeah, you see what I'm saying here. But yeah, I'll end it here. That sets up the next thing. And credit card is the same way. You could use a cash advance. If you don't want to pay interest on that, if that's all you had, then you could do it. Same thing with payday loans and all that. Of course, it's all about knowing how to play with the money. It's it's an art. There's an art to it. You could see it's a business, not trading. Yeah, I just read it right here, but yeah, that would be true too. You gotta see it like a business. But but yeah, guys, I'll end it here, and that sets up for what I'm about to say next. And I think that's a very important thing for things going where we are today. It really, it's the next. They call it the next gen. So we'll talk about that in the next video. I know it's off the beaten path of what I usually do, but this is stuff that I was interested in, and maybe you guys can learn something from it. Um, I was never into. Oh, before anyone asked me, I was never really into crypto. I did get into crypto. I did make some money on it, but it wasn't my big thing. Um, high fees, and it just wasn't my thing. I tried to get into it different ways. It just there was really no way for me to do it. But yeah, guys, I'll end it here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.